Awesome. Good morning, everyone. So we'll just get started, and we have a lot of exciting updates to share today. So I'm Lisa Belanger. I'm the CEO with the Rural Development Network. I do want to let you know we're recording the presentation, so that'll be made available to all attendees and anyone who wasn't able to attend today. And before we begin, I would like to offer this tobacco and invite Emil Neufeld to open us up in a smudge and prayer so that we can open our hearts and minds in a good way today. Oh, Emil, are you here, Emil? Just getting set up here. I'll maybe just get
Hey.
right. I'll start off. Oh, are you here?
Yeah, my audio cut
Yeah.
while I pulled the headset out of my thing. It's very unfortunate.
Perfect.
I was like, why don't I hear anything? Should be like that sometimes.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'll pass it over to you, Emil.
Valio, thank you. Just gonna get some of my things ready. I have some sweetgrass here today. Picked this up at one of my many powwows I'd go to back in the day. The thing's probably like 5-10 years old. Valio. I like this thinking about my grandmothers, my grandparents, my ancestors, and everybody that came before to bring us here to my moment in life. I ask that we all think about those that came before us, bring us the time that we have now. Think about all of our connections, all the people on our journeys, those that are with us and those that are not. As the smoke travels up to the Creator, oh, goodness. I want to give thanks to the time that we've had with everybody along our journeys. I'm really having trouble lighting this today. Nothing is working. Let's see if I can get 2 matches while I'm here. I ask, Creator, that you open our minds and our spirits, our thoughts and our prayers. Give us the opportunity to learn and share this morning, to connect and reconnect with those of us that could remake it. Take this smudge in. We pray for all of our friends, our family, all of our connections, all of our relations. Sept Nogama, Creator. Thank you for bringing us all together and giving us the opportunity to connect. Lalia, thank you.
Well, and thank you so much, Emil. I do want to take a moment and acknowledge that the RDN office and also where I live and work are in Amisquichy, Wisconsin, known as Beaver Hills House or Edmonton on Treaty 6 and District 9 territory. These are the traditional lands of the Nahiawak, Saulteaux, Nisitapi, Red River Métis, and Stoney Nakoda. The First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people have been stewards of this land for millennia. And as someone who loves hiking and being in nature, I am so grateful for their knowledge and care that have really shaped the landscapes that I'm fortunate to experience and cherish. And I recognize that reconciliation is not a one-time effort, but really is an ongoing journey, and it requires time and intention and action. And as an organization, we remain committed to fostering meaningful relationships with Indigenous communities and to making reconciliation a priority in our work. We really strive to be intentional in our actions and to integrate reconciliation within our own organization, as well as in our work with communities. And our commitment is grounded in respect and collaboration, and the belief that every step, even forward, even if it is small, is significant. So you'll be hearing today from many of our team members sharing updates about our programs from the past year. And we also have a guest speaker that will be joining us partway through the presentation as well. And we'll have some time for questions at the end if you have any. So I would like to start off by inviting Emil Neufeld, who's been with our team for a couple of years now in his role as Indigenous liaison, to share a little bit more about RDN's journey in reconciliation.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah. So thinking about Indigenous engagement, thinking about working with Indigenous peoples, there's a lot of different puzzle pieces that need to fit within there. And each one of those individual puzzle pieces are incredibly important and necessary to success. And I feel that we make up a lot of those puzzle pieces. Each and every single one of us at RDN here, we need to learn a lot of different aspects of what even simple things like, what does the term Indigenous mean as an umbrella term? Thinking about First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whenever we say that word. But sometimes it's very important to make sure that we refer to, Indigenous peoples, by their name as often as possible. Knowing the First Nation that we're working with, knowing the Métis community that we're building things with, and the Inuit communities that we help support to find solutions for them. There's a lot that each and every single one of us has to think about when it comes to really integrating and pulling together the puzzle pieces that Indigenous engagement needs to be truly fulfilled. Next slide. We need to pull together allyship, find our responsibilities, understand historical impacts of the past, understand that some of these things like economic reconciliation are important for Indigenous communities to begin to look after themselves. For the journey of reconciliation, really a lot of it is learning about ourselves, our journey, and how we can create change together. We need to create allyship, and we need to develop reciprocity and respect in our relationships that we build with communities and with each other. Next slide, please. We've worked fairly long and hard pulling together an Indigenous engagement strategy that can work for us, that we can all try and see ourselves in using. And at the core of it, it comes to every single member of RDN that makes up every single one of our teams. We can't have SHI without all the individuals that create it and make it. And for each and every single project, we do our best to try and make sure that we go through things like the TRC and find connections in meetings that can connect to our projects and connect to true reconciliation, true reconciliation, and develop together with communities what they want to see. Through evaluation and through understanding all of these individual commitments and prioritizations, through simply demonstrating cultural sensitivity, respect, and humility with Indigenous communities. We are fostering respect. We're building relationships. We are working hand in hand with Indigenous communities. Next slide, please. And we try our best each and every single day to measure that success, to measure what that looks like for each and every single one of our projects and within ourselves. Is what we are doing genuine? Is it real? Does it feel real when we give something like a land acknowledgement? Does it feel like it comes from us in a genuine place whenever we begin to try and speak and, create those relationships? We don't want empty words with empty actions. We want everything we do to be real and genuine and heartfelt. I really have enjoyed working with RDN and all the staff, even those that have left us in recent times, to find our journeys together in reconciliation and the actions that come from it. Well, thank you. Lisa.
Thank you so much, Emil. It really is a privilege for us to be able to work with you and to have you on our team. And thank you so much for all the learnings that you continue to share with us. So if you're not, I know many of you here today are very familiar with the Rural Development Network, but some of you might be less familiar. I do want to share just a bit about who we are. So of course, we're a nonprofit organization, and while our roots are in Alberta, we work with rural communities anywhere in Canada. And our work is tailored to the unique needs of these communities and essentially has 4 pillars. So we create innovative tools and resources like guides and toolkits and training that are created in partnership with rural communities and organizations, and specifically are designed for them. We provide expertise and help communities implement projects. We work to bring awareness to rural issues and to advocate on behalf of communities. And we also support groups with accessing funding. So our core program areas right now include supporting housing development and increasing housing diversity, addressing homelessness and houselessness, integrating and retaining newcomers in rural areas, and community development overall. And within those areas, our work touches on many aspects. So we do data collection and needs assessments, policy development and implementation, both for municipalities and organizations as well, supporting with accessing capital funding for housing projects. And we also distribute the federal government Reaching Home program for homelessness. And we also do consultations with communities and can help develop strategies and action plans. And we deliver various workshops and trainings to build capacity. So you will be hearing a lot more about our programs from our team today. So I'll keep it high level there. So all of our programming and services really center around the concept of rural revitalization, or the 3-legged stool. And you might have heard us talk about this before if you've been to our AGMs in the past, but it really is at the core of what we do. And the 3 legs represent the social well-being of residents, the local economy, and having a safe and healthy and affordable environment to live. So everything in any community, but certainly in rural communities, is interconnected. And if one leg is neglected, then the stool will collapse. So the 3 legs really need to be in balance in order for the community to thrive. So as an example of this is the need for housing to attract a workforce, and businesses need new employees to grow, and new employees need an affordable and safe place to live in order to work in the community. And then as well, retaining folks in a community depends on them having the services they might need as well and feeling welcome there. So social and economic development really do go hand in hand. So I want to take a moment and really thank our members as well, and the valuable relationships that we have with these 8 post-secondary institutions, and representatives from each of their members make up our board of directors. Some of you, or many of you, are here today. So Kevin Shufflebotham, Ed Pajor, Nancy Broadbent, Dina McMartin, Alice Wainwright-Stewart, Glenn Mitchell, Brad Donaldson, and Sandra Effu. And I also really want to thank our advisory board members who were with us for the past year: Mark Boychuk, Kevin Van Lagen, Leslie Warren, Nancy Green, and Mitchell Rhodes. So much happens within a year, and our team, like I said, will be sharing a lot more details about our projects and programs today. I became the new CEO in the fall of last year when we said goodbye to Deanne Bernard, who is also here today. Hi, Deanne. And I'm really grateful for the foundation that she left for myself and our team to continue building upon, and feel really lucky to be able to work with such an amazing and dedicated team. Our homelessness team this year held a call for proposals across rural Alberta for the federal Reaching Home funding for the next 2 years, which was vastly oversubscribed, and also conducted the 2023 Alberta Provincial Housing and Service Needs Estimation last year. It is really clear that the needs in rural areas are great. We also developed and published new resources, which you'll hear about today, including a capacity building toolkit to implement coordinated access systems in smaller communities, an online database of trauma-informed policies for women's shelters, a culturally sensitive data collection and storytelling tool that is tailored to reflect the realities of houselessness in First Nations communities, and the Rural Employers Awareness on Diversity and Inclusion Toolkit. Our rural immigration team continued to provide resources and training to support the integration and retention of newcomers in rural areas, including international students. Our sustainable housing initiative successfully supported communities in planning for affordable housing developments and accessing capital funding as well, along with guiding rural municipalities in enabling more housing choices and diversity. We revamped and launched a brand new website recently. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely encourage you to do so. And that will really help us better communicate how we can work with and support communities and host all of our amazing capacity building tools and resources. So, I mean, this work would not have been possible without the support of our members, our partners, funders, and the rural, remote, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities who have shared their knowledge and experiences and time in collaborating with us towards our shared vision of thriving rural communities. And these projects would also not have been possible without the dedication of our staff, who really do infuse their passion and their knowledge into our work. And with the completion of some major projects and their associated funding at our year end, we had a difficult transition, saying goodbye to some of our team members, but their contributions will continue to be felt and appreciated both within our organization and in the impact of their work on communities as well. So we extend our heartfelt thanks to them and to our team. So with some funding that we were fortunate to get from the Community Services Recovery Fund, we also were able to move aspects of our strategic plan from strategy to implementation, and also refresh that strategic plan to continue to adapt to the changing community needs and available resources for the coming years. So as we look to the future, our vision really remains grounded in supporting rural communities to thrive. And what stood out from our discussions were these three key priorities. So create and build upon strong, dependable partnerships with communities and organizations we work with, as well as post-secondaries and with government. To be a recognized resource on core rural issues and continuing to advance best practices and provide resources and information, as well as to build a stable operational model and be able to sustainably grow our impact. So with that, we'll dive into our programs, and we'll start off with our homelessness initiative, and I'll pass it over to Emma Wallace.
Awesome. Hi, everyone, and thanks, Lisa. My name is Emma Wallace, and I want to share a little bit about our Housing and Service Needs Estimations program here today. So RDN regularly collaborates with rural, remote, and Indigenous communities across Canada to enumerate housing insecurity. And the purpose of collecting homelessness data is really to provide communities with a comprehensive picture of what housing insecurity looks like in their area, to develop kind of recommendations or opportunities and next steps for service providers and all levels of government on housing and service needs. And then maybe most importantly, we're really looking to elevate and incorporate the voices of folks who are experiencing housing insecurity in our responses and our solutions to end homelessness. So with that, I want to spend a couple minutes just going over some of our key activities from the past year. So last year, we worked with 50 rural, remote, and Indigenous communities to enumerate housing insecurity. We partnered with 5 of these communities to conduct what we call custom housing and service needs estimations projects. And one of them also included the development of a community action plan. We also worked with 45 rural, remote, and Indigenous communities across the province to enumerate housing insecurity in our 2023 Alberta provincial estimation. And what I really want to highlight today, and what I'm really proud of, what I really want to share, is really the impact collecting meaningful, relevant, and up-to-date homelessness data can have on rural, remote, and Indigenous communities. So data collection truly is kind of foundational and fundamental to developing and implementing responses to housing insecurity. So armed with this kind of meaningful data on housing insecurity, 16 communities have successfully accessed funding to support their responses to homelessness. More than 18 communities have developed coordinated solutions to respond to housing insecurity, including developing advocacy plans, emergency shelter response programs, housing and homelessness task forces, etc. And then we've had about 13 communities so far reach out to ask when our next provincial estimation is going to be held. And a bit of a spoiler, that's going to be in fall of 2025. And then, further to that, we've had communities and organizations in 2 other provinces hear about our Alberta provincial estimation and reach out saying, is there an opportunity for us to conduct one of these provincial estimations in our area? So I think that just kind of goes to show some of the impacts that having this data can really have in community. And then really exciting this year, we were also able to work with provincial and federal governments by sharing data that we've collected in some of these communities to support their decision-making processes moving forward, whether that's for funding, increased service use, etc. So some really exciting stuff, and we're hoping to continue that into next year. With that, I'll pass it over to Sydney, who's going to share a little bit about Reaching Home.
Thank you so much, Emma. And hello, everyone. So as some of you may know, we are the Reaching Home community entity for rural and remote Alberta. And Reaching Home is the federal government's homelessness strategy that's aimed at reducing and preventing homelessness across Canada. So we are responsible for distributing funding to support rural, remote, and Indigenous communities, including First Nation, Métis settlements, and Métis communities in responding to homelessness and houselessness. So this past year, Reaching Home funding supported 40 communities, which we will share more about today. We were grateful to receive a 4-year extension to our Reaching Home agreement with the federal government, which allowed us to launch a call for proposals back in February of 2024, as Lisa mentioned. And I'll just get maybe Joy to move to the next slide. Thank you. Under the guidance of the Regional Advisory Board, we were able to distribute $4 million in Reaching Home funding to support 46 projects over a 2-year period, so from 2024 to 2026. I'm really thrilled to say that 10 of these projects are Indigenous-led, as our team continued to prioritize decolonizing the way Reaching Home program funding is administered. We continue to offer culturally appropriate application processes, oral reporting methods, and as a team, we continue to reflect on how we can improve our processes to increase the accessibility of funding to Indigenous nations and organizations across the province. Next slide, please. During the past call for proposals, we received the highest number of applications and funding requests that we have in the past decade since our organization has began administering the funding. There was a total of 77 applications and requests for over $22 million. So overall, we were oversubscribed quite significantly by 18 million. Now, recognizing the growing need in communities, our team has advocated for increased funding to support rural, remote, and Indigenous communities in responding to homelessness. And we were incredibly grateful to develop a partnership with Homeward Trust Edmonton that resulted in $500,000 in Reaching Home funding, going to support 22 communities in responding to and preventing winter and sheltered homelessness. So we're going to speak more about this partnership shortly. But first, I'd like to pass things over to Bryn to share some project highlights and stories from this past year.
Thank you, Sydney. Reaching Home funds 2 different types of projects, operational and capital. The first project we'd like to share today is a capital project. With the help of Reaching Home, Chard Métis Nation, which is located in Jonzier, Alberta, was able to partially fund 2 supportive housing units in their area. Between the 2 units, up to 10 individuals will be able to be housed there. Reaching Home is a great initiative because it works to meet communities where they are at and fiscally help them in achieving their goals. While the funding cannot go to fix all issues in a community, the addition of the funding can help communities to rework their own budgets to achieve other goals that they may have. This is the case with Chard Métis. By having Reaching Home funding assist them with the support of housing units, it allowed the nation to invest other resources they had into implementing more cultural and social supports and programming, which was something that their area was in very great need of. The next things we'd like to showcase are the multiple year-round and seasonal shelter, mat, and emergency response programs that Reaching Home funds. This is one of the most popular types of programming we fund. The funding is used for both capital and operational purposes. The shelters are located throughout the province in Athabasca, Spruce Grove, Strathmore, Paul First Nation, Canmore, Rocky Mountain House, and Peace River. All of these projects did many great things for the people in their community who are facing homelessness. A couple I would like to highlight are the innovative shelter pods that were developed in Paul First Nation and expected to open this season. Segatawa Friendship Society, who operates a winter shelter program where they offer meals, laundry, outreach, and a place to sleep. In the last year, they were able to help 493 clients with 1,560 service visits. There's also the Homeless Society of Bow Valley, which is a winter shelter who offers additional outreach services. I am going to let them speak to this a bit later today, though, when they present. Next slide, please. Thank you. The final project I'll be touching on today is Onum Rural Youth Association. They are a unique project for us as they are our only youth-based program that we funded this year. While almost all other projects assist youth, the fact that Onum's sole focus is on youth and the upcoming generation is crucial. While the organization is based out of Blackfalds, the program services over 13 communities in the central Alberta region. Since starting the program, Onum has been able to assist 40 youth. The program is dedicated to providing free, mobile, trauma-informed crisis intervention and a psychological first aid approach support service to youth and young adults experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness and/or couch surfing. Additionally, they offer essential items like food and personal hygiene on an as-needed basis. The funding is crucial for maintaining their outreach efforts, allowing them to connect with at-risk youth and young adults in their own communities. The work they do is outstanding and so important in helping this next generation. Their clients speak extremely highly of them. When asked, one client had this to say about the program. I can talk to you where I couldn't talk to anyone before. You explain things in a way that makes sense. I'll pass things back to Sydney now to talk more about the exciting Homeward Trust partnership that came up late last year.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bryn. So it's become increasingly apparent over the past few years that rural, remote, and Indigenous communities require additional funding in order to be able to develop solutions to effectively respond to homelessness in their communities. So this past year, our team wrote letters to various levels of government requesting increased funding to support a number of smaller communities in Alberta. And thanks to our engagement program officer, Jackie Wallace, who I know is here today, so hi, Jackie, and her team at Housing Infrastructure and Communities Canada, we were able to be connected with Homeward Trust Edmonton. And it is with tremendous gratitude that we want to thank Homeward Trust, who provided our organization with $500,000 in Reaching Home funding to support communities in responding to homelessness outside of Alberta's 7 major cities. And from our understanding, this was the first partnership of its kind across the country, where a rural and urban community entity for Reaching Home partnered in this way. Funding supported a variety of creative, holistic, and community-driven solutions in 22 communities, including emergency shelters and MAP programs. Approximately 45 shelter beds were supported with funding across several communities. Funding also supported temporary emergency accommodation in local hotels. Communities were able to provide housing supports, including assistance with finding and securing more stable housing, as well as supports with housing setup costs, including moving fees, furniture, damage deposits, first month's and last month's rent. Some communities were able to implement eviction prevention programs, which provided financial assistance and supports with rent and utility arrears, as well as landlord, tenant, and family mediation services. A number of communities were also able to provide basic needs and outreach services through the provision of food, clothing, transportation, assistance with accessing income supports and identification, as well as culturally appropriate supports. So what we've heard from service providers was that this additional funding was the boost they needed during a really difficult time. And our team really continues to look forward to advocating on behalf of rural, remote, and Indigenous communities for increased funding and resources to respond to homelessness over this next year. Now, before we continue on, we thought what better way to learn more about some of our projects than to hear directly from one of our wonderful community partners. So it is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today, Jessica Clarick. Jessica resides in Canmore, Alberta, and is the Executive Director of the Homelessness Society of the Bow Valley. We've had the pleasure of working with Jessica for a number of years now, and I would love to pass things over to you, Jessica, to share more about HSBV and the impact that this program has had on residents of the Bow Valley.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Sydney, and good morning, everyone. I'm really honored to be here today. Thank you for the invitation to not only attend, but to also present at the AGM today. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the Homelessness Society of the Bow Valley, we are known by our acronym HSBV. We're a newly established charitable organization based in the Bow Valley. Next slide, please. The Bow Valley is located in Treaty 7 territory that is traditionally the territory of the Ira Nakota, Stoney Nakoda, comprised of Bearspaw First Nations, Chiniki First Nations, and Goodstoney First Nation, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Blackfoot Confederacy, which is comprised of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai peoples. Our team is privileged to work, live, and play within the Treaty 7 territory and are dedicated to advancing reconciliation. Next slide, please. Awesome. So here is a little peek at the HSBV team. We're currently comprised of 8 board of directors, 1 executive director, a fund development coordinator, 2 program managers, and a team of roughly 14 seasonal shelter staff. And our team is guided by a commitment to a shared mission and vision. As an organization, our mission is to foster a Bow Valley community where everyone has access to a safe, warm shelter and programs that support their needs. And our vision is that everyone in the Bow Valley has a safe place to sleep. And to work towards towards our mission and vision, we provide low barrier shelter and outreach programs for unhoused and housing insecure folks within the community. Next slide, please. So if you're unfamiliar with the Bow Valley, if you hit again, there's a little transition there. Thank you. So if you're unfamiliar with the Bow Valley, we're located approximately 1 hour west of Calgary, and we include several small communities, including Minithne, Canmore, Banff, Lake Louise, Kananaskis, and Exshaw. The Bow Valley is currently facing a housing crisis with a very high cost of living. In fact, according to the Alberta Living Wage Report, we have the highest cost of living across all of Alberta. And likewise, being located within the Canadian Rocky Mountains and at the foothills of the mountains, while beautiful, does come with life-threatening weather, particularly during the winter months where we face extreme cold temperatures. And this further exacerbates the issues and risks for those who are unhoused and housing insecure. Next slide, please. So homelessness within the Bow Valley, as I'm sure many other rural communities can relate to, can often be defined as hidden, where individuals are provisionally accommodated or lack security of tenure. And so they tend to be known as out of sight, out of mind populations, and can be found sleeping in the forest, sleeping in cars. And prior to 2020, next slide, please, there was a really limited understanding of the data and a lack of an understanding of the picture of what homelessness looked like in the Bow Valley. And this really changed following the 2020 Banff and Canmore Rural Housing and Service Needs Estimation Project, which was funded and carried out by the Rural Development Network and completed with the local Homeless to Housing Coalition, known as H2HC. And from the study, it was determined, if you hit next, there's another transition. Thank you. One more and one more. Thank you. So it was determined from this study that over 56% of survey respondents considered their housing unstable and also felt at risk of losing their housing. And 61% of those respondents were employed. And so with these rising concerns surrounding homelessness within the Bow Valley and having this concrete data to back these concerns, the town of Canmore and the Homeless to Housing Coalition came together to brainstorm some solutions to develop a system of care and support for those who are unhoused in the Bow Valley. So next slide, please. In 2020 to 2021, this collaboration piloted what was formerly known as the REST Emergency MAT program in February 2021. And the pilot program was located in Canmore and ran for 42 days and was accessed by 17 individuals. Now, really importantly here, this pilot program was only made possible through funding that was provided by the Rural Development Network. And in March 2022, next slide, please. The Homelessness Society of the Bow Valley became an officially registered nonprofit organization, and we took over the REST program to continue program development. So since 2021, we've been operating an emergency winter shelter program, with each operating season becoming longer and longer as we build capacity and gain additional funding. In the upcoming season, we will be entering our 5th consecutive year running the shelter. And the Rural Development Network has been a really critical pillar of support for our organization. We've been awarded the Reaching Home grant in both 2022 to 2024 and 2024 to 2026. And really, this funding has been so critical to our growth, success, and impact. Next slide, please. Now, for a little bit of a dive into what this impact is, we're going to focus on the 2023-2024 operating season, which was just the year prior. So we run 2 programs. The first is our outreach program, which is a phone and email support where unhoused folks can connect with our team to seek support with basic system navigation and program referrals. Last operating season, we had 199 instances of support and provided 46 nights of emergency commercial accommodation. And this is done through partnerships that we've developed with commercial providers in the Bow Valley. For the first time ever last year, we were able to run this program for the full year and had daily operations with inquiries addressed within 24 hours. And again, this is made possible through funding that we've received. Next slide, please. In addition, last year was the 4th year of running the shelter program. The shelter was located at Scout Hall, which is a municipal building here in Canmore, and opened on December 11th and closed the morning of April 1st. So the shelter operated for a total of 112 nights, each of which saw guest use. And really importantly, the shelter was open for 5 nights of extreme cold weather events with temperatures below -40 degrees Celsius and 11 nights with temperatures at or below -20 degrees Celsius. So really, this shelter program was a critical resource for unhoused folks, ensuring that they not only had a safe space to rest during the cold months of the year, but that they also had access to additional basic supports such as a warm meal, snacks, breakfast, system navigation support, and other referrals to programs in the Bow Valley. Next slide, please. So throughout the past operating season, we supported 40 unique individuals within the shelter space, saw an average of 5.9 guests per night within the shelter, provided 640 bed nights, and reached or exceeded our capacity of 8 beds, 19 out of 112 nights. So really clear here that we're starting to grow and seeing an increasing need to the point where our shelter capacity is not sufficient. And so our team has really referred to this past year as a year of unprecedented use. And this is evident really when looking at the table you see on the slide here, which compares the operating seasons for the shelter. And you'll notice even between last year and the year prior, we've supported 10 more unique individuals, had a jump from 2.3 guests per night to 5.9 guests per night, and provided 640 bed nights in comparison to 263 in the year prior. So the impact of our program has really been incredible. Being the only low barrier shelter provider in the Bow Valley, we've really had the capacity to ensure that unhoused folks have a safe and warm and inclusive space to rest and seek support. And again, this has really only been made possible by our funders, including the Rural Development Network, who, as I've mentioned, has been a consistent source of support since our very beginning. Joy, I realized I missed saying next for the slide, so if you could do 2 nexts, that'd be great. Perfect, thank you very much. So as we all know, data tells stories, stories of growth, impact, and need. And as a low barrier shelter provider, we're limited in terms of our data collection. And so our ability to tell the full story of what housing insecurity and homelessness looks like in the Bow Valley can be restricted. And this is where the Service Needs Estimation Project has been particularly impactful for both HSBV and our broader Bow Valley community. As mentioned earlier, prior to the 2020 service needs estimation, there was a limited understanding of housing insecurity, and the data from that survey really led to the inception of the REST program and thus HSBV. And likewise, the data collected from the recent 2023 Bow Valley Service Needs Estimation Project has been really critical for building an understanding within our community, at government levels, and for Bow Valley service providers. We were fortunate to participate in this project, which was of course funded by the Rural Development Network and collaboratively carried out with the Town of Canmore, H2HC, and YWCA Banff. We had our internal team complete the survey, as well as made the survey available to shelter guests. And I'll just note that our team has informally stated that the survey was really easy to complete and enticing due to the gift card incentive. So just a nice little note there. And what particularly stood out to us, if you go to the next slide, please, from the Service Needs Estimation Project is the findings outlined in Table 1. So 23 respondents identified as being unsheltered, and 1,123 identified as being at risk of homelessness. Furthermore, as demonstrated in Table 7 from the report, 399 housing insecure respondents accessed basic programs that provide basic needs such as food and shelter. And so this data not only provides a snapshot of the needs within the community, but also really points to some gaps and areas of continued growth to meet community need. For instance, HSBV shelter has a capacity of 8 beds. And again, not only did we reach or exceed this 19 out of 112 nights last season, but based on the findings in the 2023 estimation project, it's evident that there will likely be an increasing need for shelter programming. And so really this data tells a story of community need and provides service providers like HSBV with further context to not only share with our community for education, but to also share with potential funders to advocate for further support. So thank you for the Service Needs Estimation Project and the work that's done on that end. Next slide, please. So in closing, each year, the need for HSBV programs is evident with growing use and enhanced community awareness. Our shelter really does fill a need and a gap within the Bow Valley system of care, providing those who are vulnerable, unhoused, and housing insecure with a warm and safe space to rest. Our work is only made possible by the generosity and support from our funders and partners like the Rural Development Network. And on the behalf of the HSBV team, I just want to say that we're inspired by RDN's commitment to advocate for and support rural and remote communities on their journey to create positive impacts for the lives of those who are vulnerable and unhoused. And we look forward to our continued collaborations with RDN, working together to make a difference and a great impact. Thank you all for your time and your energy. I'm more than happy to answer questions. I'm not sure how timing looks for that, Sydney, but I'm happy to answer questions now. Otherwise, unfortunately, I will have to pop off a little bit early today. But if there are questions for me about our programs, I'm more than happy to connect. And the RDN team is more than welcome to share my contact information.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica. I maybe just will pause here because Jessica does have to hop off and see if there are any questions. And like Jessica said, if there are questions that come up later on, we're happy to connect you with her afterwards, but I'll just pause for a minute here. Okay. Thank you so much, Jessica. I do want to thank you so much for taking the time today to share more about the work that HSBV is doing. And I know for our team, it's been incredible to watch the growth of the shelter from when the MAP program was first piloted a few years ago to now, the creation of HSBV. And it's been amazing to see the continued collaboration among organizations in the Bow Valley and the town of Canmore to respond to homelessness. And I can say personally, I've always admired the shelter's low barrier approach to providing services to folks. And of course, the really compassionate and dedicated team that you have and are leading. So again, thank you so much. And we really look forward to continuing to work with HSBV in the coming years.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all the kind words, and let's continue on with the AGM.
Amazing. Perfect. Okay. So I'm also excited to share about the impact of our project titled Implementing Coordinated Access in Smaller Communities. This initiative was funded by the federal government's Reaching Home program as well, specifically through the Community Capacity and Innovation Stream. And this project really focused on us first creating a guide that supports smaller communities in building adaptable and scalable coordinated access systems. So at the heart of this project was community engagement. We connected with over 80 people with lived experience of homelessness and 105 service providers. And it was really important that voices of those directly impacted by housing insecurity were at the forefront of this work. Now, one of the key outcomes of this project was the development of a coordinated access guide, or toolkit as we call it, which is soon going to be published on our website, so stay tuned for that. And this toolkit is really designed to guide service providers through the foundations of what coordinated access is. It includes resources and training materials that address key elements of coordinated access, like garnering community buy-in, best practices, and varying approaches to case management, data collection, as well as community engagement. And what's really unique about this toolkit is that it does recognize that every rural community is unique. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And we're really hoping that this tool is a practical and customizable resource that can be really tailored to the specific needs of each community. We're incredibly thankful to so many staff at RDN who assisted with this project at various points, and of course, our partners. We'd like to thank the Innu Friendship Center in Cochrane and Grey and Bruce counties in Ontario, as well as Hinton Adult Learning Society here in Alberta, for allowing us to learn from their coordinated access journeys and hear directly from those experiencing housing insecurity in their communities. Now, I think it's safe to say that a highlight for our team of this project was our hybrid coordinated access service provider training event that was held in Edmonton this past February. Now, despite kicking off the event with the biggest snowstorm of the year, 66 people, including service providers and people with lived experience, joined our team from across the country. We had folks joining us from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Nova Scotia, the Northwest Territories, and the Yukon. And based on feedback from those who attended the event, we heard that the event really created a space for personal and professional learning and sharing. As folks came from communities of different sizes, they came with diverse experiences, and all folks were at different stages in their coordinated access journey and understanding. We were also incredibly privileged to learn from facilitators, including Al Weeb, who shared his inspiring story with us and led a session on engaging those with lived experience in program and service planning and delivery. We also heard from Dr. Jody Carrington, who is a breath of fresh air and really spoke about self-care and mental health in the workplace, which is, I think, a particularly timely topic that had all of us reflecting for days afterwards. We also had the pleasure of hearing from Janine Harvey, who joined us virtually to share her experience from a Northern and Inuit perspective on culturally appropriate research and culturally safe housing. Feedback from this event, I think, was really overwhelmingly positive, and it was amazing to see how the learnings, connections, and new friendships that emerged during these 2.5 days extended well beyond this event. Now, the last slide is a picture of a graphic recording produced by Fuse Light, an artist, Emma Richards. And this was recorded live throughout the event, and it really showcases and reflects on some of the topics and learnings from the event. And we really hope we have the opportunity to build on this work in the future and continue supporting communities with capacity building through the hosting of more training events like this one. We've heard from communities that intentional training that brings together service providers and people with lived experience in a meaningful way is needed to support communities in building the capacity to work towards more coordinated service delivery. Now, as we currently explore opportunities to build off of the learnings of this project, we look forward to continuing to support smaller communities in Alberta and across Canada, as we really feel like this work is really only the beginning. So now I'd like to pass things back over to Emma, who's going to talk about our First Nations data collection project.
Hello again, and thank you, Sydney. So before I dive into what we've been up to for the last year for this project, I do just want to share a little bit of history or context on the First Nations data collection project. And I think this history, this context really, really sets the stage from where we started all the way to where we're going now and where we've ended up. So this project really came out of a bit of a realization that while our housing and service needs estimation project and process is incredibly valuable to many rural, remote, and Indigenous communities, it's not always a perfect fit depending on some First Nations and Métis settlement contexts. And so, you know, having conversations with some of our community partners, some First Nations, some Métis settlements we were working with, we decided, how can we essentially decolonize and indigenize our houselessness data collection process to better support and better meet their needs. As a result, we applied for and were successful in receiving federal and CMHC funding to support the development of this kind of decolonize and indigenize data collection tool that was really intended to be for First Nations by First Nations and hopefully would kind of allow for and emphasize First Nations self-determination. So RDN created an incredible team of people to drive this work forward, most of whom are First Nations or Métis, and included the support of elders and an amazing Indigenous advisory board. So first and foremost, just want to acknowledge the entire team who really put their heart into the work and drove this forward with incredible insights and incredible amounts of effort. So like I said, the intention of the project really was to create a First Nations-led data collection tool that focuses on houselessness with First Nations, including those who live off reserve. And it was really important to us that this tool be culturally appropriate and trauma-informed, that we build meaningful and reciprocal relationships, and that we empower First Nation communities to advocate for themselves. Again, the intention being here that the work coming out of this project allows First Nations to support their community members moving forward and their members moving forward. Once the project started, the team and the advisory board worked together to develop an kind of authentic and meaningful approach to the work. And what this looked like, it is kind of 5 key components that are here on your screen. We wanted ethics to be at the center of everything that happened. So that means being trained, the team being trained in principles of OCAP and embedding these principles into all aspects of our work. We also partnered with the First Nations Information and Data Governance Center to further hold us accountable to this goal. And for those of you who maybe don't know, OCAP refers to the ownership, control, access, and possession of First Nations data. Other aspects that were really foundational to the work and to our approach were respect. So, you know, asking questions in appropriate ways, engaging in active listening, and kind of committing to like ongoing personal and professional self-reflection. Humility, which really was speaking to, you know, this goal to kind of confront personal biases and taking time to learn and grow individually and as a team. Partnerships and collaboration, really looking to kind of, you know, seek and acquire blessings from elders and leadership, getting guidance on how to interact with community members, and ongoing communication and feedback with the team and between our community partners. And then last but not least, we really wanted reciprocity built into everything that we did. And so making sure that we were promoting good relations, connecting the work to the ways of being, and then most importantly, providing benefit back to the communities. Ultimately, this was for them. So guided by evidence-based research, incredible community conversations and knowledge exchange with partnered First Nations, we developed the storytelling tool, as we call it, which is broken out into 4 sections and really focuses on who you are as a person, your journey with housing, your accessibility and mobility needs, and then your successes. And then we piloted the tool with our 5 partner First Nations, and to help support the mobilization of the tool, so how we shared it out with members, we reached out to Our Data Indigenous to collaborate. And Our Data Indigenous is an app that's open to any Indigenous community in Canada looking to collect and gather data in their community. And it was really designed to be kind of easy to use and easy to access. And I do think it's important to shout out Our Data Indigenous here because they were so excited about the work when we reached out that they offer their services free of charge, which was super incredibly kind of them. So once the tool was developed and it was input into the app, we then distributed it out to members on the 5 partner nations. And then once all the data was collected in each community, we used a strength-based and person-centered approach to analyze that data and report it back to each community. So to speak kind of briefly about some of the project outcomes and impacts over the last year, I really want to highlight a few things. First of all, as a result of this project, 5 First Nations have customized reports on houselessness and community needs, successes, and challenges. And I really do want to emphasize this point. I think it's important to note that, 5 First Nations not only have meaningful houselessness data that will act as a means towards self-determination, but more importantly, the data was collected in a good way. It was collected in a way that didn't cause additional stress to community members or anything like that. So again, really looking to collect that data in a good way. And it sounds like, and what I think we did is we were able to achieve that. Second, we were able to develop a toolkit, which is available on our website, that will allow other First Nations across Turtle Island to collect houselessness data in their communities. We built incredibly meaningful and reciprocal relationships with service providers, community members, elders, First Nations, and funders that will last kind of long past this project. And then, I think really important to highlight is we also learned a lot along the way. We kind of learned things about our team. We learned things about working with others. And, I think our learnings and our lessons and our reflections will allow us to continue strengthening our relationships and our work moving forward as we continue to look to decolonize Indigenized data collection across the organization. So I want to say thank you all and thank you to the team as I've shared today. And I'll pass things over to Kabir to share about our Sustainable Housing Initiative.
Thanks, Emma, and thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Kabir, and I'll share a brief overview of the Sustainable Housing Initiative over the past year. So next slide, please. So our initiative is primarily rooted in providing capacity building services to address the pre-development housing challenges that rural and remote communities face. We're pre-development experts and leaders in facilitating the development of affordable housing in rural and remote communities. And our team's made up of our community planner, Sean Adams, our project manager of planning and community development, Alice Wickert, our planning and research analyst, Jordan Knickel, and myself, Kabir Shahani, the capital funding manager. So over the past year, we supported rural and remote communities in their effort to build financially sustainable housing through conducting housing needs assessments and community consultations across Canada. We continue to work with nonprofits, local governments, and community leaders to build capacity, develop action plans, and strategies while ensuring that collaboration and partnership building through vehicles like research are placed at the forefront of our work. Our main focus is to uncover the needs and provide the solutions to housing challenges across Canada. So we're excited to be finishing our work on the Enabling Housing Choice project, which was a 3-year research and policy project funded by the Alberta Real Estate Foundation that aimed to provide insights on how Albertan municipalities can support growth in their communities through providing increased housing choice and diversity to their residents through local policy changes, land use bylaw amendments, and capacity building strategies. In the last year, we successfully finished our second and third phase of the project with 6 partner communities across the province: Bow Island, Airdrie, Pincher Creek, Trochu, Claresholm, and Mayerthorpe. We're excited that our extensive collaborative project research has led to the release of the Guide for Diversifying Housing in Rural Communities. So this guide is a cutting-edge document which allows municipalities to exact systemic change on restrictive local policy with the goal of diversifying housing in rural Alberta. And we're also really excited to complete our work with the Placemaking for Inclusion project, which was funded by the Community Housing Transformation Center and was a 1-year project that strived to understand the stigmatization of affordable housing while engaging with tenants to help arrive at tenant-informed ideas and solutions for overcoming stigmas and promoting inclusion in their communities through social events and public placemaking. And we were excited to partner with the Edmonton Senior Residents La Société des Manoirs, where we obtained further funding from the federal New Horizons for Seniors grant to host a community mural painting event where senior tenants at the affordable housing residence were able to paint mural tiles with other community members and children from the neighboring school. And you can see the painting on the slide over there, just to the right of the slide. That's the mural that was painted, and it's now displayed at the residence. So following this event, we created Placemaking for Inclusion, and it's a guide to tenant-based initiatives to equip other affordable housing residents, communities, and providers with best practices, tools, and funding opportunities that can help guide them to leading their own tenant-based initiatives within their communities. So now I'm going to talk about another project. Earlier this year, we started working on developing a self-paced affordable housing course for housing sector professionals. And we're excited to announce that we've completed its development and have actually secured more funding through the CMHC to develop an additional course module on impact investment. And we're working with the Community Housing Transformation Center to have the course up and running later in the year on their new housing school. And we've also presented and hosted a webinar with the BC Nonprofit Housing Association to promote the course. And we were invited in March to present the course at the CMHC's National Housing Conference in Ottawa. So now I'll talk about a more recent project that happened this year. And it's called the First Nations Guide to Developing Affordable Housing. So as you may remember, last year, we released our second iteration of the step-by-step guide to developing affordable housing. Its release prompted questions about whether a similar guide that had been led by First Nation, a similar guide that had been led by First Nation for First Nation people could exist. So our team got to work and identified the need for 2 affordable housing guides, one for on-reserve and one for off-reserve. So we've now successfully received contribution funding from the CMHC to develop a scoping document for 2 guides. Through this, we're conducting preliminary research with contacts on and off reserve, and we're excited to see how this scoping document can set the foundation for the development of the guides. So now I'll pass it over to Mary to talk about Shelter Pulse.
Thanks, Kabir. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary McGuire, and I'm a project manager with the Rural Development Network and led the Shelter Pulse project. And I'm here to provide an update about what happened over the past year. And I wanted to actually start by sharing this explainer video that provides an overview of the project. So next slide. And if we could just hit play.
Rural shelters are often stretched thin for time and staff. So imagine having a database of resources to enhance supports and services right at your fingertips. The Shelter Pulse database hosts a collection of research-based, trauma-informed policies and procedures. These valuable resources were developed in partnership with rural and remote shelters from across Canada who came together with the shared goal of empowering shelters with the tools they need to enhance their policy development. The policies and procedures are customizable to the unique needs of each shelter and community. and the platform offers a comment function to provide feedback, ensuring the documents remain relevant and accessible. If you're in the women's shelter or gender-based violence sector, we invite you to create an account with the Shelter Pulse database to access the policies and procedures. Visit shelterpulse.ca. Shelter Pulse, building capacity for rural women's shelters across Canada. The Shelter Pulse database was initiated by the Rural Development Network and Mountain Rose Women's Shelter Association and funded by Women and Gender Equality Canada.
Thank you.
Rural
Oh, okay. It's like we can watch it again. I've watched it about 100 times, sadly enough. Yeah, so excellent video. That's another thing that Fuse Light Creative made for us. So earlier in these slides, you saw the coordinated access poster thing. And yeah, anyway, this past fiscal year, we saw the Shelter Pulse project come to a close. And we made the final updates to policies and procedures and completed the development of the database. So in total, we had either adapted or developed 74 policies and procedures. And we were so very fortunate to have many shelter partners who were very engaged and participated in these 5 policy review sessions where we selected key policies and procedures and had these live conversations and in the moment sort of edits and what have you. Many great discussions came out of those sessions, and it was a really firm reminder of how unique every community is and how they do things, and the folks that they work with and their needs are different as well, right? So it was great. The database officially launched March 2024. And since then, we've had 52 users. Actually, I think we're at 55 now. Register on the database, mostly who represent gender-based violence organizations. So really great. And we presented various live demos over the past fiscal year. I won't go through the whole list of them, but a couple of them being community initiatives against family violence membership. So we presented to their membership. We presented to the Government of Alberta's Director of Preventative Programs and Strategic Partnerships, and the Alberta Rural Coalition on Housing and Homelessness as well. And so since the launch of the database, we've been discussing how valuable it would be to explore funding and partnerships that would support workshops and training for women's shelters and similar organizations for that matter in the implementation piece of the more complex policies and procedures. So stay tuned for that. We'll see how that goes. And I am going to pass it on to our rural immigration team. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Hi, everyone. My name is Sohaila, and last but not least, I have the pleasure of introducing you to our rural immigration team and all the successful projects that we completed over the past year. So firstly, our team received funding from the Government of Alberta's Settlement, Integration and Language Programs to design, develop, and implement a training program for rural employers to be able to better attract, retain, and settle newcomer employees into their organizations. So the READY project, also known as the Rural Employers Awareness on Diversity and Inclusion project, was an 18-month project and worked collaboratively with 2 immigrant serving agencies, Lethbridge Family Services and Assist Community Services Center. And throughout the course of the project, we were able to support over 30 rural employers in a combination of both the in-person and the virtual training. As Lisa mentioned at the beginning, we were able to publish a toolkit for employers to access across Canada to further support their employment practices, to be able to better support and attract newcomer employees into workplaces across the country. So the READY project had a continuation, and we were able to receive funding from Prairies and Economic Development Canada to launch the Ready to Work program, which is currently ongoing and is an extension of the Ready program. However, this is a project that aims to support business sustainability through teaching of successful practices for recruitment, hiring, and retention of newcomer employees, while providing newcomers and international students to Canada with the opportunity to find relevant and meaningful work placements to gain that Canadian work experience that they need to succeed. And this was done with the Ready certified employers who have committed to creating a more welcoming and inclusive workplace. So the Ready to Work project is still active, and so far we facilitated 227 placements and hosted 14 employer training sessions. Another project that we completed this past year was the Cross-Cultural Awareness in Rural Workplaces project that was funded by the Government of Alberta's Multiculturalism and Anti-Racism program. This project offered 6 virtual training workshops to rural employers, service providers, organizations, communities, and libraries who serve immigrant populations, and a focus on understanding cross-cultural communication, anti-discrimination training, and tools to celebrate multiculturalism in the workplace. This was actually a very successful project, and it continued to be requested upon completion. However, we were able to support 90 participants, and over 65 organizations across Alberta attended. Our immigration team this past year also received funding from the Alberta Association of Immigrant Serving Agencies, also known as ASA, and the Canadian Red Cross to complete the Housing Education to Support Ukrainian Evacuees in Alberta project. So this project aimed to improve Ukrainians' ability to secure and retain long-term housing through the development of a guidebook that provided information and resources on various aspects of tenancy and ownership in Alberta, as well as supports for general settlement and integration topics such as healthcare, schooling, education, and settlement services for living in rural communities across Alberta. This guidebook was then translated into both Ukrainian and Russian. A second guide was also developed through this project for landlords and housing providers to better understand the needs of Ukrainians and increase their ability to be able to foster a positive relationship with diverse tenants and enable stable long-term tenancies. Lastly, this project also supported the collaboration and communication between landlords and other housing providers and held in-person engagement sessions in both Edmonton and Calgary. I'll now pass things over to Elaine.
Thanks, Sohaila. My name is Elaine Flores, Project Manager and Evaluations Coordinator at the Rural Development Network. In the next few slides, I will be sharing with you 5 projects I was involved in for the past year. Another project with a focus on employer education is the Faith and Belief Friendly Workplace Project. It aimed to assist rural employers in the Temiskaming Shores and area region in Ontario in creating more inclusive environments for employees of diverse religious, spiritual, and non-religious backgrounds. This was a 2-year project funded by the WES Mariam Asefa Fund and done in partnership with the Center for Civic Religious Literacy, Religious Freedom and Business Foundation, the Temiskaming Shores Chamber of Commerce, Keepers of the Circle, and the City of Temiskaming Shores. There were 2 initiatives piloted for this project. One is establishing a faith-related employee resource group, or ERG. This is a monthly community building and professional development opportunity that both employers and staff members attend together to help new and existing workers of diverse belief backgrounds to feel confident and comfortable at work. Discussion topics depended on a sacred day relevant to a certain community group that month. This initiative is being continued by the local Multicultural Center in Temiskaming Shores. The second one is a faith-friendly workplace certification. This certification training is a credential that demonstrates an employer's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. 18 individuals from 14 different organizations attended this training. We were able to deliver it twice during the project timeline. Local partners have now pooled together funds to be able to run a 3rd cohort of this training. The next project is building rural capacity to support newcomers. This project was designed to support rural communities, service providers, community-based organizations, immigrant serving agencies, employment centers, and municipalities in understanding the unique needs and barriers faced by newcomers moving to rural communities. This was offered through a 4-part live virtual training program attended by 19 individuals, and we also created an online self-paced version of the course taken by 10 individuals. This project was funded by the Alberta Association of Immigrant Serving Agencies, or ASA. It was successful in supporting participants in defining key terms such as equity, diversity, inclusion, and intersectionality, understanding common frameworks and approaches for supporting newcomers, immigrants, and refugees, such as anti-discrimination, anti-oppression, cultural competence, cultural humility, and trauma-informed care. It also was successful in supporting examining the characteristics and approaches of welcoming and inclusive communities through a rural lens. The next project is creating systems-based approaches to address racism. This aimed to design, develop, and test a new framework focused on creating a sense of belonging and well-being in rural communities. This work was in collaboration with the Calgary Catholic Immigration Society, Center for Civic Religious Literacy, and Keepers of the Circle. This was funded by the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. The communities we worked with were Strathmore in Alberta and Temiskaming Shores in Ontario. Through continuous team meetings and conversation with the community partners, we adjusted the project scope to create a resource instead of a rigid framework, making it more accessible and useful for community members. This resource, by the way, is also available in our website. The next project is the In Our Hands project. It is a cooperative entrepreneurship program focused on supporting newcomers in Alberta and British Columbia. It aimed to facilitate the creation of cooperative businesses to meet newcomers, employment, and entrepreneurial needs. This was another project funded by the WES Mariam Asefa Fund and was developed in partnership with the BC Co-op Association and Women's Economic Council. The project successfully raised awareness and interest in the cooperative model, with 33 newcomers completing the co-op's 101 education. And also, as a result, 4 newcomer cooperatives were established, demonstrating viability of cooperative entrepreneurship as a pathway for economic mobility for newcomers to Canada. One example of a developed co-op is the Culture Links Co-op. It specializes in translation, interpretation, intercultural events, and multilingual professional services. This was incorporated in March 2023. And last but not the least, the project named Increasing Community Understanding of Ukrainian Evacuees is another project funded by the ASA. It is a 4-part virtual workshop series with the goal of building the capacity of rural communities to support Ukrainian evacuees. This workshop series was attended by 85 individuals working in settlement organizations, learning centers, multicultural councils, different levels of government, school divisions, and other nonprofits. The project reached 23 communities across Alberta, as well as some attendees joining from other provinces. The positive feedback from participants is a testament to the success of the series and the powerful partnership between RDN, the Multicultural Health Brokers Cooperative, and Action for Healthy Communities. This collaboration truly exemplifies the importance of working together across different sectors. Thanks for listening, and I will now pass things back to Lisa.
Thanks so much, Elaine. That brings us to the end of our presentation from the team on all the programs that have been happening over the past year. I really want to thank all of our staff for their amazing work and all of our partners, as well as some of the team members that we didn't hear from directly today, for their work on the projects as well, and in other areas that are critical to making it all happen, including our operations team. Thanks so much to Jessica for joining us as well to share more about your work and the collaboration that we were able to have there. So as you can tell, our team always has a lot on the go. You can definitely find more details in our annual report, and we'll throw that link in the chat as well as our website. There's lots of opportunities to get involved, whether it's in some of our current projects or events that we host. A couple of upcoming events that I will just mention. on the next slide. So our Icebreak speaker series is coming up. The first event will be on September 30th. So this is really about creating a safe space in both social and professional networks and promoting inclusive thinking, acceptance, and intercultural connections. We also have a Train the Trainer workshop series for supporting Ukrainian evacuees across rural Alberta. So this will be a 5-part workshop series taking place from October to December and are really designed for those who are providing settlement supports for Ukrainian evacuees in rural communities. We're also exploring ways to build on our advisory committees, to engage with people working in our related program areas, to stay in touch with community needs and opportunities and different areas of expertise. So if you are interested in joining any of these groups or learning more and participating in some engagements, do reach out to us. And as our gift to you for attending our AGM today, we would love to connect with you, and our team member Trisha is the perfect person to connect with for a 30-minute online consultation so we can hear more about your community or your organization and how we might be able to help. So we'll put a link in the chat there as well so you can easily just pick a date and time to connect with Trisha, who is our community development manager. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We do have some time for questions if you want to hang around. And yeah, we'll be here. And thanks so much for joining.